China is one of the freest societies in the world. Don't take it from me. That's from Freedom House.
Let's talk a little bit.
Democracy, courageous people, and it's just, I don't know why.
What Nancy Pelosi did this morning was basically tell China they can take Taiwan anytime they want it. Who the hell is she working for, the Chinese?
Gates weighs in. Pelosi's trip to Taiwan has drawn the ire of the CCP, and everyone is keeping an eye on how it plays out. We speak to Congressman Andy Biggs for his take. Communism is evil. Oh, come. The companies in China.
Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
The companies in China.
Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
That they will be targeted. There are no guardrails for who can be audited by the IRS. He said taxpayers may need to hire certified public accountants to protect themselves. Most taxpayers that I talk to submit their tax form every year and hope they got it right, because it's so complicated. Republicans aren't the only ones speaking out against the bill. A statement by Karen Kerrigan, the CEO of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council, says supersizing the IRS to audit more taxpayers means small businesses have a target on their backs. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said that her chamber will move swiftly to send the bill to Biden's desk. At saying that it's now a crisis for them to deal with.
Oh, yeah. Turns out having a bunch of illegal aliens running around your community is not good for your community. And again, that's not a bigoted statement. That's just the truth. And the illegal aliens that are coming now aren't even from any sort of like homogenized ethnic background. Used to be you went down to the border, you saw Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras dominant. Now it's like the United Nations down there. You got India, Sri Lanka, met people there from Belarus, Romania who were coming across the border. It's a total national security threat. I love that Governor Abbott is actually showing some of these Democrat politicians of what the consequences of their actions are, and hopefully we'll be able to demand a secure border as a part of the Republican control of the House.
Congressman Matt Gaetz, thank you.
Thank you.
Invasion of Taiwan. Its reversal of anti-access and area denial, or ATAD, tactics gives us a clear image of China's geostrategic ambition beyond Taiwan.
The CCP began military drills last Thursday, sending warships and planes into the Taiwan Strait and launching missiles into waters surrounding the island. This is all in response to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last week. Taiwan's foreign minister also said that China has no right to interfere with Taiwan's democracy or interactions with other nations. Taiwan's military also conducted its own exercises, sending a message that it is ready to defend the island.
You on American Thought Leaders.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I've heard quite a bit about you. I've had all four of the doctors that are the faces of the Unity Project on this show. I think all of them multiple times, in fact. But this is the first time that I've actually had the mind behind it all. No, but in all seriousness, tell, what is the Unity Project? What are you doing? And how did you get these four brilliant minds together?
Right. So the Unity Project, we're working on bringing together organizations that are fighting the vaccine mandates, fighting for medical freedom and parental rights. And it was really born out of what's going on in California. And I know we'll get into a lot of those crazy bills. But we do have, I think, incredible Strategic Advisory Council as well as board members. Obviously, Dr. Robert Malone is our Chief Medical Officer. Dr. Aaron Kheriaty is our Chief of Medical Ethics. Dr. Paul Alexander is our Chief Scientific Officer. And then, of course, we've got Dr. Pierre Corey and Dr. Peter McCullough and others on our Strategic Advisory Council.
What about you? Like, why is this issue? There's a lot of people in California. I think it would be, one larger than many actual, sovereign states, right? And certainly economically. What is it that drove you to become involved in this? And you basically started it, right?
We actually have a team of about 4 that started it together, and our chairman, Jeff Hansen, he was a part of that. What for me personally, I was actually looking into what a lot of what is happening
in combination with, an energized group of people from the last election, is going to spell a very good election cycle for Republicans.
Now, I want to go into what's happening in Ukraine, and as you mentioned, the land war in Europe and the possibly expanding of this, but just briefly more on the election issue. I think you have a good point here that it's actually hard for them to do what they might want to do. It's important to remember that when 2020 elections hit, a lot of that was changes made to election laws under emergency declarations
and right before the election, which was another thing. So it was. I understand people's upset about it, but you're not going to see anything like that in 2022. You're in a sense of changes before the election, more liberal policies. All of that was people responding. You can say they had malintent and all that, and they very well may, but they had the cover, at least, if you want to be as cynical as you can, they had the cover of a pandemic. No such thing is happening right now. And so I think you're going to get back to more normal elections, and normal elections where people are paying attention is going to be a safe election.
Where's the oil coming from at that point, right? What are we going to be doing? And then you have Pete Buttigieg coming out and saying, well, let them drive electric cars, like Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake.
Let them eat cake. I mean, number one, there aren't that many electric cars to buy right now. And number two, that's the point. I mean, you've got to be a upper middle income person in America to buy them.
And so where are we heading? Where are we heading then? That's a big question.
Well, see, you would, by the nature of your question, you're assuming that they have an answer to that, and they don't. They have an ideology, and their ideology says this is what you're for, and you just keep saying this will work, and you can say, well, obviously it's not working, but they'll say no. If we do what we say, it'll work. And I've run across this with the left for a long time. If you go back and all the things that the left has done, I mean, you look at everything from the Obama administration, the Biden administration, they'll pass a bill, it won't work, or it'll fail, like the bailout, not the bailout, but the bill that Biden passed when he first came in, to the COVID relief bill.
Yeah.
I mean,
that caused the one that gave like billions to gender studies in Pakistan.
But it caused inflation. I mean, every economist, any reasonable economist will tell you that you just put so much money out there, you drove up the cost of goods. And they're saying, no, it's not true. We need more of it. The reason it didn't work, maybe because we didn't do enough. Their answer is always, our policies work, and if they don't work, it's because we didn't do enough of it. And so how do you argue? Because you can always say, well, we need to do more.
That's an interesting point. The policies don't work, and the solution to non-functioning policies is to do more of what didn't work.
Of the same thing.
That seems like COVID policy in a nutshell.
Exactly.
Right? They said, the vaccine didn't work. You need world nuclear war if Europe and America intervene in Ukraine. They're threatening nuclear war, and they're trying to get Iran to develop nuclear weapons as we are helping Iran make money.
Well, according to the Biden administration, they're not helping Iran get nuclear weapons. They're participating in an agreement that will delay Iran's, which is, again, like everything else that comes out of their mouth, it's just not true. The original Iran deal was a horrible deal. It gave them billions of dollars, to which they used clearly. I mean, there's nobody that doubts this. They used that money to promote terrorism throughout the region, whether it's in Yemen or in Syria, in Iraq. They are the world terror masters, and the more money we give them, the more they will use the terror. And in the meantime, we saw with the original agreement, they were not complying. Trump didn't just pull out of that agreement because he didn't like the agreement, because it wasn't going to work, which it wouldn't, but that they weren't complying with the agreement. And yet, what's their solution? Well, it's probably too tough an agreement. Ooh.
Some dumbass set off the alarm. How'd you like to get woke up by this?